Hi.
Hello. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. I'm excited to meet you. I know Raquel, I've been talking to you on Instagram a lot, so glad to see your face.
Yes.
Be able to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Well,
We're super stoked.
absolutely. I'm gonna make sure that my connection is good because it's saying that mine is unstable. So let me just make sure.
Oh,
I know
ours would
it's
be
nice that they
unstable.
tell me. Let's see.
Mhm.
Don't know. Let's see if I'm on a bunch of stuff. I usually have like 12,000 tabs open, so if I can just
Same.
get that out of here. And then let's see. I'm not sure where I'm staying with family right now, and so I have no idea where
Mhm.
they even keep the router. I might even have like a whole web browser open. I do, and that's full of one. Yeah, I'm like, you know how they say, oh, I have like 12 tabs open. I'm like, I have 12
Uh-huh.
browsers open with 12 tabs open.
Yeah,
That's how
it's me.
okay. I think I should be okay. I think I should be good.
Cool. Yeah, it seems pretty clear, so that's good. And I know ours isn't the best either, so if we have to stop and regroup, we will.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
you
just
guys
super stoked. Yeah, I don't know if you want a little brief introduction on us at all, and then I think are we technically recording right now?
Yeah, we're recording right
So
now.
we're recording right now, just so you know, and then he's the master editor, so he'll get it all edited and start, when we want, but
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. Why don't you guys tell me a little bit about yourselves and what you do and what, your ultimate goal is here. And then we can, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I found your page, Your Wild Birth, on Instagram back in September when we were in Switzerland, the two of us, and it was right basically upon the conscious conception of our baby that I am now holding at 39 weeks since conception date. So, yeah, so found your page and just really resonated with the information that you're sharing and also just super grateful for all of the valuable information that you're sharing just freely. And that's a big thing that speaks to us in our business as well, because, we just want to share the knowledge of herbalism, holistic nutrition, wild and free pregnancy and birth. We want to share that information freely with people because that's kind of the whole basis of what we do at Black Bear Herbery. It's surrounded by and within sovereignty and the ideas of, attuning to nature, which is sovereign and answers basically only to herself and also shares super freely amongst all of us.
Yeah.
So
collaboration over competition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of, right now we offer 7 products that we give out, offer through different platforms such as our website and also some retail partners. We have stores that sell our products. And then we've started this podcast as a way to just continue to share free information and connect with our community too, So yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, you summed it up really nice.
Yeah. And then, I kind of know just from following you, but if you want to give a little bit of your introduction and what you want to share.
Yeah. All the things that I do. Yeah. I feel like I've been trying to understand what it is that I even want to do or can do when it comes to birth. And I've almost had my account, Your Wild Birth, for a year. And it's really just been a wonderful learning opportunity. What I do is I share what I learn and what I think and what I feel about birth and pregnancy and motherhood. And now it's evolving into a space where I'm, beginning a community to bring women together to be able to talk about their love of birth and pregnancy and motherhood. And then I also have educational resources that I've created that I'm going to continue to expand upon. So it's a little bit of education, a little bit of community, but mostly my goal is to just support women as they walk through pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and motherhood, and just to continue to listen to others' experiences so I can sort of help them create the experience that they want. So in a nutshell, that's what I'm doing right now. Who knows about tomorrow? I'm always moving and grooving like the next thing. So
I love that. Yeah, we resonate with that energy for
Oh, yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
for a woman experiencing pregnancy, I can say check and check. You are completing your goals. I feel super supported by, your space that you've created over on Instagram. And who knew that I could feel, seen and valued and heard through something like social media. You know what I mean? Just a lot of the things that I'm experiencing in this wild pregnancy and thinking about birthing in a sovereign way, it's not very resonant with my current friend group or family group, and that's okay. They're still supportive and open to hearing, but I've literally never met someone in person who has actually birthed or even experienced pregnancy the way that I am and that I plan to birth. So it's been really nice to connect with what you've created.
yeah, I mean, that I think is really the biggest struggle that even I'm finding. I just went through my first wild pregnancy and free birth. And while I kind of got onto that path because I was surrounded by a lot of women who had been home birthing, I kind of took it one step further after I started learning about birth a little bit more and looking into home birth. And yeah, I mean, it really, we're all just so conditioned. And I've found that even I'm conditioned, even after all the things I've learned and all the things I've shared and all the people I've connected with, I'm even still conditioned to fear birth. I even still have those fears pop up in my head when I'm thinking about the next birth, where I'm like, but what if this happens? And what if that happens? And how am I going to handle that? And yeah, and then it's hard to share that and work through that with a lot of people because they're like, oh, well, yeah, then you shouldn't do it. And that's pretty much, share your fear and then they affirm your fear. And basically, so yeah, that's, I think what I've found when I was really exploring what I can contribute, it is that ultimately I can contribute empathy for feeling like you're the only person doing what you're doing and being surrounded by people that have no idea how to hold space for that. And not even really at a fault of their own, because we're all working through the same conditioning in our own way. But, even still, it's nice to know that there's other people facing those fears, but keeping their plans the same.
Wow. That gives me chills. That's beautifully said. Yeah. It's important to honor all the feelings we have come up, right? Not totally dismiss them, but also stay true to ourselves and our authentic track and be able to be affirmed that, it's okay to have those fears and you're still powerful and going to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's basically what we were talking about last night.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm very curious what you guys were talking about. Like the late night conversations are like the best ones.
So good.
We were just talking about, complications and fears around birth in general and how it's more important to have the information and the knowledge than to be afraid of the what if. And just like soothing those fears by equipping yourself with like the
The education,
Yeah.
yeah. You said it perfectly, Isabel, in your wild birth guide. You know, you talk about at the introduction before you go into the variations of normal and the emergencies, like the way I understood what you're saying is that the education and arming yourself with that knowledge is how you do work through and overcome those fears. And it's only normal to have those fears. And also, I think a lot of the population, and this applies to everything, not just birth, but a lot of people will tend to let those fears, they will run away with those fears due to a lack of education, just not knowing how valid that what if scenario actually is.
Yeah. And you miss out on a lot of awesome
Right.
opportunities because you let the fear control you.
Right.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very true. And that I think is probably one of the biggest conversations in this space. Like, you know, I do weekly Q&As on my Instagram, and I mean, I feel like so often I'm getting the question, how do I overcome my fear? How do I get through the fear? And something I really try and remind people is that your fear is not working against you. It's not
Mm.
something that, I mean, it's not something you have to fear. You know, it's a natural part of being a human being with a brain that's trying to exist in the world. We're supposed to scan our environment. We're supposed to, you know, think into the future and imagine all of the what ifs. That's part of our brain's purpose, is to prepare us. And in that preparing, it says, oh, well, what if this happens? How will you handle that? Let's go ahead and pre-think about that. So yeah, when a fear pops up, I mean, honestly, one of the best things you can do is go down the rabbit hole of trying to either validate or invalidate that fear, and just allow it to exist, and then say, okay, thank you, fear. And then either it's a valid fear and you learn something new, or it's an irrational fear and it's still helping you in one way or another, and you can just say, thanks, but I don't need that anymore. I figured out that's not necessary, you know? So I feel like just being able to embrace your fear and realize that your fear isn't going to stop you from birthing your baby, because your brain's not really a process anyway. Your body's doing it. So whatever fear pops up in your head, that's not stopping your body from birthing your baby.
Wow. So powerful. Friend. No? Are you having some fear about what might be?
So sorry, guys. I think the connection has just like gone out. I'm wondering if it might be better if I switch it to maybe a phone call, because then maybe it won't. I don't know. Let me see if there's a little chat, because I think, yes, okay. I'm gonna chat you guys a thing.
Can you do
I'll see if the chat works.
on my phone?
Oh,
Oh.
there we are. Yes.
Let's see.
Dropped.
I'm gonna try moving this closer. Did you guys get the chat? I don't know if I can hear you.
Yeah.
See.
Okay, it's
Right, something else. Yes. Trying to reconnect. We're here, but I don't know if you can hear us.
Okay, it's starting to come back a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. Are we back?
I think we're back. I think that was our
Yeah.
connection totally dropped.
Oh, weird. Yeah,
Yeah, but
I
we're
know.
back. All right.
I moved closer to maybe where I'm closer to Wi-Fi as well, so we'll
Okay.
see. Okay, perfect.
It
Think we're
wouldn't
back.
even let us access the chat, but now we're back, so that's
Okay.
good.
Okay, cool. That's good to know that the chat doesn't work when you need it to.
I know. My goodness.
Technology is just one of those things where I'm just like, if it doesn't work, forgive me, because
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how to will the forces of technology in my favor.
totally. Totally.
So
Just go along with it when it works.
Yeah.
pretty much just cross your fingers, hope for the best. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm,
But it looks like we're back now. So I'm just gonna stay in this spot. Seems to be working for
Cool.
me. So, okay. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Where were we?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think just weeding through that fear, and
Hmm.
I loved how you say that, fear isn't going to stop you from birthing your baby because the baby will still come, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's sort of where I think I'm even still working through this as well, where we feel like we have to do something. Like we
Mm,
feel birth is an active process that we're participating in. And
mm,
I think when we are in that mindset, which is so easy to be in because we always look at the process of birth as either you're doing something or you're doing something. And sometimes the not doing, I don't know, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, but like sometimes the not doing in birth is the most that you can do to help
mm,
go the way it needs to. And yeah, I feel like we think of birth as this thing that we can get in the way of, or that we can really have any control over at all. But, and this is even true, a true parallel in parenting and birth, where in parenting, a lot of people focus on controlling the child.
mm,
But really, what we need to control is the environment that the child is in and create an environment where the child can thrive. So,
wow.
this is kind of the same thing where we actually have no control over the process of birth. And the same way, we really have no control over our children. uh, and the best that we can do is control the environment in which we're in.
Mhm.
While birth unfolds. And I mean, because our birth is happening in like the subconscious part of our brain. And so if that's where it's happening, then it doesn't matter what intrusive thoughts come in. It doesn't matter what fear comes in. It really, whatever's happening in the forefront of your brain doesn't matter at all. As long as your subconscious feels safe and secure and knows that, that everything is okay, that's really all you can do to control birth, is to create an environment where your subconscious feels safe.
Wow.
Yeah. It's stepping out of the ego mind and into that like primal or spiritual space
Mm,
and just tapping into that.
Right.
mm,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I
mean,
love the parallel with parenting too. That is, wouldn't it make sense for birth to be that preparation, both mentally and emotionally, to really prepare you for that surrender that's needed in conscious parenting as well? That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the parallel in the way most people birth and in the way most people parent. Most
Wow.
people birth trying to control birth, and most people parent trying to control their kid.
Yeah.
And I mean, I even noticed this because I had 2 hospital births where I was all in. I mean, with my second, I had pretty much already decided that I was not capable of birthing. So
Mhm.
I wanted an induction because my mom was going to be there and I didn't want to have the baby after she left. I mean, ultimately, somehow I lucked into the doctors not agreeing to that, which was great because then I was able to learn that I can birth, like I am capable of that. I wanted to get an epidural, but I got to the hospital too late. So it was really, I was on that conveyor belt, just completely convinced that birth was something that we had to manage and control, and that really, was up to us to decide how it worked.
Wow.
And even though I was aware of like conscious parenting, peaceful parenting, and I was attempting to apply those methods to my own parenting, I still had that core belief that if I didn't control my kids, they would turn out to be, mass murderers, whatever.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until I actually went through a birth where I didn't try to control it that it finally clicked in my mind. And now the way that I interact with even my older kids is so different because I know what it feels like to protect the environment without controlling what's in the environment, if that makes sense, or without controlling birth, without controlling my kids, just protecting the space that we're in. And now, I mean, I really take that role more seriously than I ever have to protect that space. And yeah, it's incredible the lessons we learn about birth, even when we think we know everything about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And parenting too.
Yeah. I mean, and parenting too. That is really one of the things I say is the best thing that you can do as a parent is to accept the fact that your kids are going to come to you one day and give you the honest, clear picture of who you really are. And it's not going to feel good. And you have to just be prepared to hold that space for their perspective of who you are to them. I mean, my oldest is almost 6 and that day is going to come. But, it's also a gift because it's so hard to see yourself clearly. And birth shows you who you are. I learned so much from my recent free birth about who I really am deep down. And kids show you who you really are. And then you can really work on yourself once you know the truth about yourself. So.
Wow. Yeah, it makes me wonder, comparing your hospital experiences to your free birth. Like, I mean, every birth is a birth, and I don't want to invalidate anyone that has had hospital births. So, with that being said, how do you compare the downloads or the transmissions you received learning about yourself through your hospital birth experiences versus free birthing at home?
Yeah, it's interesting because I always kind of grew up in this like more holistic household. Like my mom was very like food is medicine, whatever. And then when I got pregnant with my first child, I mean, really all that I knew about pregnancy was what most people know, which is you go to the OB and then you go through all the tests and all the things, and then you go to the hospital, you have a baby, and then you go home. And it was interesting because I never thought to go to the doctor for anything else but being pregnant. So it's hard to put myself back into being 23-year-old me and getting into the mindset of what I learned, because I don't think that I learned anything from that birth for a really long time, except that I learned a lot of false narratives about myself that I then had to kind of complete that cycle in my third, where as I was walking through my wild pregnancy, I had to realize that I picked up all these beliefs that I don't know what I'm doing, that I can't trust myself, because I went into my first pregnancy fully believing that I was going to be capable of going into birthing my baby. I believed that birth was a natural, normal process. And then all of that completely crumbled. And I remember just feeling so ashamed of getting an epidural and just really wondering, like, why was it so hard for me? Like, what's wrong with me that I couldn't do it? And yeah, I really held that belief for a long time that there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't trust myself, that I'm always, and that's probably playing on like some other, trauma as well, that's where my brain went to. But then once I was pregnant with my third, and I really just started, well, I guess with my second birth, I learned that I can birth children. And that was a really wonderful thing, but I still didn't really get that confidence back, that I was capable of caring for my children and being what my children needed. Because then during that time, I had my postpartum taught me that I wasn't good enough for my kids. And that was really a difficult time where my second had a tongue tie, and I'm still learning and unlearning and relearning things about tongue tie. So I can't on that at all, but he had it. And at the time, the best information that I had was to clip it and then move on. And we didn't find that out, that he even had that, until 6 months. And our breastfeeding journey was like, horrible, basically. I mean, I didn't sleep more than an hour for the first year of his life. And every time I would take him to his routine, like well checks or whatever, I would tell the doctor, like, he's crying all the time, he's inconsolable. And every time she would just look at me and say, well, babies just cry. And so having that be the thing that she said, I would just hold my baby crying and think, he was born to the wrong mom. Like, he doesn't want me to be his mom. And I just kept thinking I was the problem. I'm the problem. And it was really, I think, that's where I think it's so hard for me when I look at hospital birth now, is because I didn't learn any truth through the experiences. And it's not to, I don't really judge any woman for choosing to birth in the hospital, because I've been there. Like, I get it. I understand. And at the same time, I do think that having the real honest view of what it can do. I mean, if you can go through the system completely untouched and still feeling in your power, that's great. And honestly, for a long time, I thought I did have an empowered, birth, where I got all those rite of passage. Like, I got the ultrasounds, I got the epidural, I got, the whatever. All of that felt like a rite of passage for so long, until I started actually learning the truth. Started actually learning that I am capable, and that I am the best, the best option for my kids. Like, that I am capable of loving them the way they need to be loved, and caring for them the way they need to be cared for. And I think really in my free birth, I learned a lot of truth through my wild pregnancy, but ultimately what I learned about myself is that I don't have to be perfect in order to do the right thing. If that, like I don't have to do everything the right way. I mean, even with my free birth, I walked away a little bit traumatized, because I realized how much I was trying to run from the intensity of, and eventually it's going to catch up to you, and eventually you're going to have to face it one way or another. And, and that was my time. So there you go.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah, the ultimate truth coming up and through that experience. That sounds so powerful. And yeah, I think you share it in such a beautiful way, in a concise way that people can relate to and understand, like even relating the different steps you go through in the systems, still feeling at that moment like those rites of passage, but ultimately that authentic truth, coming through the free birth space. It's incredibly powerful, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where, I sometimes I sometimes have a little bit of a hesitation when people really want to push like pain-free birth. I think some people do it in a way that opens up possibility for transformation in birth. And then I think sometimes it's a really just, catchy sales tactic. And it's difficult. And maybe part of me is just bitter because I'm like, I want to have the pain-free birth,
Mhm.
That's part of it. But I think another part of it is you're supposed to birth the way you're supposed to birth. And you can gather you can gather the techniques, you can learn how to breathe the right way. For anyone who can't see, I'm doing quotation marks. You can learn how to do all the right things and maybe reduce your pain in birth. But I think sometimes we need the pain, I mean, maybe sometimes we don't, but I think in general, when you're so focused on doing the right things in birth to make it less painful or make it less intense, you're kind of overstepping the entire purpose, which is to push you to your limit. And then once you get pushed to that limit, maybe there's a choice you can make to either give in or fight. And I know I'm definitely a fighter, and that's what I learned. I don't want to give in. I don't always want to just say I'll be okay. I like to get into that drama of the pain and, the yelling and the whatever. But I needed to know that. And if I had, in my first birth, I got the epidural, and I think I missed out on learning who I am when I'm pushed to my ultimate limit. And I think that left me very blind to being able to soothe myself and regulate myself when my limits are being pushed. And again, that preparation for motherhood, kids are going to push you to your limit, and they're going to bring up every single little bit of hurt and pain that you've ever felt in your life. And it's going to be intense. So what are you going to do? Are you going to surrender to it? Are you going to allow your children to be who they are? Or are you going to fight? And are you going to push back? And are you going to try and subdue them to make your pain less intense? So it is hard when you have that, that pain-free birth, being face all the time, because I don't think it's supposed to be pain-free for every woman at every birth.
That's incredible.
I also feel like it's, redefining the way that people think about pain. And we're so conditioned to associate like the tiny little scrapes that we get outside with pain, or it's just changing it from being a negative association into like something that can bring so much transformation and opportunity for becoming a stronger, better person through feeling the body and feeling your muscles moving and contracting and even tearing. And like, it's just such a cool phenomenon that the body can go through that and be just fine.
Resilience.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that really just brings me back to kind of that generational conditioning that I think makes, that makes the idea of numbing birth so appealing. Because if you think about what most of us are told, like you scrape your knee and you start to cry or you freak out, or I know my kids, like they put on like this show for me when they get hurt, and it's because they're trying to say, I need you to come here with me, be with me. And I feel myself even getting really overwhelmed when they do that and wanting to say, you're okay, just be quiet, come to the show. But in doing that, it's like we're kind of saying, no, don't be hurt, because I'm upset now that you're hurt. And so we kind of tell our kids, and we were told as kids, that pain brings abandonment, or pain brings ridicule, or pain brings, whatever experience you had. Pain doesn't often bring in healing and connection and love and light because that's not what we were given when we were growing up. And I think that definitely has a lot to do with it, is that relationship to pain and how we are conditioned to perceive it. It's really tempting to run away, but at the same time, I don't really know anyone who's ever grown in a positive way because they were having the best time of their life.
Right.
It's always that devastating moment that again pushes you to your limit and tells you, what are you going to do? Are you going to change, or are you going to try and push this away and keep going the way you were going before?
Yeah.
Wow. So reframing that pain as an opportunity to, like you said, the paths diverge, and you have an opportunity to either learn which path you will choose, or to just choose it and see what happens from there.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really curious to know, like, what your dream birth looks like, with that being on the horizon, and then all this talk of pain and knowing that
it's awesome. This is really, really a great conversation to be having right now, approaching the liminal space that I'm in right now between pregnancy and birth. And it will be my first time experiencing birth at all, let alone a free birth. And I'm just thinking a lot as we're talking about my own relationship with pain from childhood, and just some really traumatic things that I've experienced around both physical and emotional pain, and really not being taught how to hold that, let alone handle or process that. And, to be real vulnerable and out there, to put myself out there, even thinking back on and exploring my own relationship with painkillers, like literal pharmaceutical painkillers, and how that's something that I, was drawn to in my younger years. And so I see it as this, just the younger me, or a part of me, was really trained and programmed, like you mentioned, that we all kind of are, to escape and numb that pain. And how I learned that or where that came from, I can't quite pinpoint, other than social programming. But I think it's like, even thinking of being on the 8th grade softball bus and having one of the team moms, bless her heart, she had the best of intentions, but she was passing around a bottle of ibuprofen to all of us 8th graders because, knee pain or back pain or wrist pain. And it's like, we're in 8th grade, you guys. And like,
how much pain can you really have with an 8th grader?
Yeah. And so, just thinking about all that is really interesting. And I guess if I've had any, air quotes, fear throughout my wild pregnancy and thinking about birth and my ideal vision, it is about how the past version of me dealt with, or actually didn't deal with, pain. and just wondering how that might come up for me in the birth space. And then also it's like I have that fear and that thought, but then like the version of me that I am now kind of comes in and says, no, like we've moved past that. We've got this. Like you have been, sober from all substances for an amount of time that is something to be proud of. And you don't go to alcohol or dissociative states or any of that to numb any pain that you do feel now. It's very, I guess, holding the ability to face whatever pain, be it emotional, physical, that comes up, and just kind of find a way to work with it rather than trying to get away from it, I guess. Like just holding it, like this is what it is for now, and it'll pass, I guess.
Yeah, it won't last. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Eventually the baby is born. And then it's done.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, hearing you say, even it's like obviously the pain in childbirth, it does have a purpose, so it's like a lot of the other pain I've felt in life, I guess you could argue that the emotional pain has made me who I am today and whatnot, and maybe my purpose is to help others. But really, like a lot of it doesn't seem to have a great reward or a real outcome or purpose. Whereas, at the end of the birth process, I get to hold my baby in my arms and this divine being that we've created. And so, yeah, just kind of knowing that it is purposeful and I can get through it. And I guess I'm just thinking more of it as I'm expecting, and even a part of my vision is to expect to experience intensity, more than pain. Like I know that pain can and may be a part of it, but to me it's like right. And being okay if it is, but yeah, just kind of imagining this intensity of just life force rushing through me, and this like, yeah, coming to terms with the real me and who I really am, and what parts of me are still asking for that healing, and being able to face that head on rather than running away, because I don't see running away as an option in the birth space. Like it's just, we're going to get through this. So maybe that is the ultimate way that this version of me can kind of prove to the past version of me that we've outgrown running away from our pain.
Yeah. I mean, that I think is really, I think it's going to be a beautiful experience for you, because I'm just thinking like, we just have this idea that as soon as the pain hits, we're no longer safe. And, I feel like it's so easy. I've definitely experienced my own version of pain avoidance throughout the course of my life, and trying to numb the pain. And yeah, when you put it in those terms, it makes a lot of sense that I would numb birth. Because that's what I always did. That's what I always wanted to do, is just get away from the pain. And I think when it comes to birth, it's like you go through it, you survive it, and then you realize, oh, I can survive whatever comes my way. And even to the pain piece, like I do want to start contributing to the conversation of intensity in birth rather than pain in birth, because I feel like what we are exposed to can shape our experience, of course. And I don't want to just sit here and speak pain into every woman's birth, And I do think that that's kind of the point that you come to. And there's a lot of experimenting that I kind of want to do in this realm. I'm like very in the beginning process of thinking through pain and childbirth and trauma and intimacy, even kind of playing a part in that. But yeah, I mean, I think that we do come to a point, and I even noticed this in my birth where, yeah, it was a little painful and it was mostly just intense, but I felt like on top of the world. I was like in the
Wow.
zone, doing great. And then a flip switched. Um,
Mm.
yes. And all of a sudden I was fighting so hard and I was like just waiting for it to be over. Um, and I think that that was something that I sort of did to myself. You know, I think that was a choice that I made within that moment to basically decide that pain was going to be too much for me and that birth was going to be too much for me. And I think in being able to work through that and come out the other side and survive it, it did really shape my relationship with pain and choice. And and also the ability to like heal through pain as well. You know, so it's kind of like when you are a kid and you scrape your knee and your mom pours like hydrogen peroxide on it and it hurts.
Yep.
You know,
Yes.
I feel like that was kind of my most recent birth. And I'm just so curious to continue, you know, learning about birth and going through it. And I mean, you know, kind of experimenting with the idea of how much our mindset actually controls and how much our willingness to work with the pain actually contributes to flipping it around and making it intense but maybe not excruciating and traumatic which is birth often, and I don't think it needs to be that. So
Right. It reminds me of how it's a choice to suffer or to be in suffering.
yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah. Well, and how, I mean, even in my life right now, I realize how often the pain that I feel increases the more that I don't deal with what I'm facing. And the more
Mhm.
I deal with it, the moment it just goes away. And then
Yeah.
I'm done. So
Yeah. Wow, that's really powerful. And it makes me feel that, you know, pain is this kind of physical signifier from our body that's actually pointing to something emotional and or spiritual,
yeah,
you know, and it's just asking to be heard. It's asking to be seen and validated. And
yeah,
I've experienced that too. The moment that you stop running from it and give it a voice and say, I see you, then it can dissipate.
yeah, yeah. It's almost like magic. It just goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then, you know, you relate that back to parenting. And
Yep.
this is another thing that I really like about birth because ultimately parenting is my biggest passion, but birth is like the most monumental moment that affects the way you parent. And
Mm,
when you make space for your big feelings and uncomfortable feelings in birth, you're learning how to do that for your kids. And
wow.
when you face your kids and you face their feelings and you sit with them in their feelings and you let them express them, they feel better. But when
Yep.
you try and silence them and you try and stop them and you try and keep them from having those big feelings, they get bigger. So
Yep.
it really is all so related and it's all so connected. And I think that's really, if anything, the biggest message that I hope, you know, women can understand is that you can heal from anything, but the choices that you make in pregnancy and birth and postpartum affect everything. Um, and it's important to consider when you're walking that path.
Absolutely. That's powerful right there.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, and it's kind of blowing my mind that this parallel at least has not come into my view until now. I mean, maybe I've seen it a little bit, but the fact that you're pointing out how related your birth experience and your parenting experience is, and how much of an impact the way you choose to approach and treat birth has on how you approach and treat parenthood. It's just blowing my mind. Like, why is that not talked about more? It's
Right.
it's like, obviously, of course, but I don't feel that it's a conversation that's had enough or is spoken loudly enough. So kudos to you for speaking on that, and for all of us just sharing that message now to those listening.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm being honest, there's a lot of new concepts that I've been thinking through, and this is definitely one of them. Because now that, I'm like 6 months away from my most recent birth. And like I said, it showed me truth. And I'm still learning new truths every day. And so this is one of those things where it just hit me one day and I was like, oh. And it was something where even my mom, who was helping me after my birth, she pointed out, she was like, you're different. You're different now. You're different this time. And I've felt it in every moment of, even the contrast between me being pregnant and then after my birth, it is different. I am different. I am a completely different mom for the better. And, and again, that's why I don't want to just say, oh, my pain should have never happened. How can I get away from it? Because I think it was that moment that I was feeling all the pain that I had ever needed to feel in my life. And then I released it. And now I show up better, for me, for my family, and for my community. So.
Wow. You're definitely doing it. Yeah.
I just think that growth is forever happening. And I think that honestly, I think every single time you give birth, you just get better, especially if you're willing to embrace it. And I want to say, I think it's amazing that you are entering your birth and motherhood journey. I know that you guys already parent, but for this being your first birth, I think this is a wonderful way to approach it. And if I could go back, my husband was asking me earlier, would you change your first 2 births?
Wow.
And I said, absolutely. I would trade I love my community and I'm so happy that I have it. And I'm really grateful that I'm able to connect on such an empathetic level, having been through it.
Right.
And at the same time, I would trade it all to take that experience away from me and my first children and give them and myself something better. So, I think every woman should birth for the first time the way that you are birthing. Really
thank you.
amazing. Yeah.
It just makes me feel this like heart swelling when you're saying that, because whether you realize it or not, you have impacted my choice so much by sharing what you have shared. And, I know you can't go back and redo your experiences, but in a way you are gifting that to me, and I believe other women, through sharing those raw emotions and that valuable information. So, it's happening vicariously. It really is.
And I think that really is, I guess for all intents and purposes, that's what makes it worth it.
Right.
Is just being able to say, I can't go back, and I didn't feel the intensity in that moment, but I feel it now. Every time I speak my truth, I just recently did a podcast episode on epidurals and bonding, and that was a hard one for me to be able to say, what, I didn't get to bond with my first child. And I feel it and I see it now, and I can change it and I can heal it and I can correct it, but I can't go back to it. So I think it's a wonderful gift, because you won't have the option at home to get the epidural and to run away, to face it. And I think that's beautiful. And I think in having that attitude for your very first time, you have all of the possibility in the world to create a beautiful moment for you and
Mm,
your child.
yeah, thank you. It's really powerful. Yeah, and I also just want to add that I really feel that this baby has chosen this path as well, you know, as much as what I've learned from my outside world through, you know, resources like you and other books and things that I've listened to and read. And also, I feel that the true motivator underneath all of that is this baby is choosing how he or she wants to come into the world
Yeah.
and how he or she wants to exist in this world and as our child. You know, they are hungry and excited for this bond and this closeness and this gentle parenting that, you know, I don't think the version of me 5 years ago could have given to this child. And, you know, so it's pretty amazing to think that, you know, our kids do choose us and they do choose how they're born. And I know that can be a lot when it doesn't go the way that we might want or think. um, but you know, it's beautiful to share, you know, to think that even you and your journey with your other child, that you're now repairing some of that bonding and getting the opportunity to work through that. And it's never too late, you know. And
It isn't. I mean, as a
all,
30-year-old, almost 30-year-old woman, truly, you could repair your relationship with your child
yeah,
anytime. And, you
yeah,
know, I see that in my parents, I see that with grandparents, I see that all over the place. Like, all a
mm,
child really wants is for their mother to love them.
yeah,
So, and I do think, you know, I think that babies are probably the most intelligent version of a human, of anything ever. And it is true. And I think my oldest is one of the most resilient, honest, like wonderful people. And I think that he's strong enough to be the one to make me the mother I need to be.
mm,
And well, you know, it's really not his responsibility. It's something that, you know, I'm the oldest, and you know, my mom was the same age as I
mm,
was when she first gave birth to me, and I feel that role, and I carry it, and it's, you know, it's just part of my story.
yeah,
And it is so interesting to think about like conscious conception, because I know that's
yeah,
guys have, and you know your baby comes into your mind when
mm,
when you're ready to be who they need you to be. And I definitely feel that. And I feel that with my third, and I feel that with my second and my first.
yeah,
So yeah, really that's the other thing that I try and tell mothers who have been through it and who are dealing with that grief is that you really don't need to cover yourself in guilt. It's not really
mm,
wrong to feel guilty. It's okay to be upset and to feel the guilt, but
mhm,
if you carry the guilt and you don't move past it, and you don't accept it as an inevitable part of your story, um, you could do what I did for many years, which is carry that guilt into your parenting. And
mm,
you know, that's the other piece is when you're a guilty parent, your main goal with your children will be to get forgiveness. And your
mm,
children owe you that, and they don't even really always know how to give that to you. Um, and it really actually gets in the way of being able to get to know them and be who you need to be for them, and just say, you know what, I'm going to own my actions. You don't
mm.
owe me anything. And, you know, let me just love you and call it a day.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, releasing them from the weight of our own healing, essentially. You know, obviously they're a pivotal part of it.
Right?
But, you know, yeah, releasing them from that
Expectation.
expectation. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just from our own perception of what they should be feeling. I think that's my biggest thing that I'm going through right now, is realizing what I'm perceiving they're going through could be nothing like what they're actually going through. So for me to be there for them in what I think they're going through really might not help them at all. And it might actually add stress and add pain to something that otherwise is not stressful and not painful. So,
Wow.
all the lessons, so humbling.
So good. I know I'm feeling a follow-up interview or episode on conscious parenting, gentle
Absolutely.
parenting.
Yeah. Fun. I know. It's I mean, there's so many different aspects to birth, and obviously being a mother and being a parent is one of them. So
Absolutely. Yeah. It really makes me think of, the parallel you're drawing. It makes me think a lot of that ultimate, really that rite of passage, but that transformation from maiden to mother, and how, not to say that obviously this isn't even my place to judge it, but just observing your story, it sounds to me like the real shift for you happened in your free birth, of that really powerful transformation of like maiden no more. And now we're fully stepping into this super powerful mother goddess figure.
absolutely. I mean, I fought it for a really long time. I really fought to have my space, have my time. And yeah, I mean, that's the big transformation that really happened, is I finally was like, okay, I'm a woman, I'm a mother. I'm not a girl, I'm not a little kid. This is who I am. And I'm either going to embrace it, or essentially I'm probably just going to ruin my life, because my kids, and I'll be stressed out all the time. And, being a mother and embracing that is the most freeing feeling I've ever had.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
And ironically, I was fighting it to hold on to freedom.
Right. Yep. Oh man, that's so funny. What we do to ourselves.
I know, we're always just in our own way. We just need to, the more that we let go of, I've been trying to dabble in this concept, and I don't know how to really speak it yet. So I'll just share it here for the first time. There's that whole phrase where you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
And it's never really sat well with me, and I've figured out why. And it's because I don't really think we need to be pushing out so much. I mean, I think really what we need to learn how to do is empty our cup, so we're better at holding the space and receiving what other people have to give. And that, I think, is ultimately what I throughout my whole pregnancy. Don't cry now all of a sudden. And it is, and I notice that when I do that, I'm much more willing and able to hold the space for my community, for my children, for my husband, for everyone around me, because I'm not so full of my own stuff that I want to put onto other people. My own perceptions of what my kids need, my own perceptions, or my own feelings of what other people are doing. It's not really, it's still there. I'm still a human being that, the world revolves around me, right? But but I'm able to step back from that a little bit more. And yeah, that's where that intensity piece to birth and being able to birth following your own lead, I think really makes an impact, because you can just push out everything, literally and figuratively, all at once. And then you're empty and you're ready to receive whatever your child has to give.
So really, you're seeing yourself as the cup rather than what's in the cup.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah. And that's the simple put it, that's easily digestible that I just could not figure out. But yeah, I mean, that's really, I think as mothers, that's kind of our job, is to, you know, mothers and parents, that's our job to hold the space, not to necessarily make the space, I suppose.
Wow.
It's amazing. It makes me think too of how, I mean, I'm getting real deep on it now, but how, you know, water will take up the form of whatever the container is. So like if you're the cup and you're allowing yourself to be kind of whatever container is needed for your husband, for your community, for your children, you're allowing them to fill that up in the way that is best for them, not like you fit into this little box, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, that's very true. And that is very true. I mean, yeah, because I think really all anyone wants, especially our children from us, is to feel completely seen for who they are, completely heard for who they are, completely loved for who they are. And it's really hard to do that when you're so full of your own stuff and when you're unable or unwilling to become who they need from you. Yeah. And, you know, just to push the analogy further, you can't change the shape of the cup if it's already full of stuff.
Exactly.
So,
woo, we are on to something. This is good.
Yeah. They're good for analogies.
That was a good one. Love that.
Yeah. I know I've learned a lot.
I have too. Yeah, such a pleasure to connect with you. It feels very resonant to and natural to connect with you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely a pleasure.
Yeah. What's a great way that people can connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, really, my stomping grounds is Instagram. That's my main deal. That's where I love to be. It's at Your Wild Birth. And then I have a website as well that just kind of goes through all my stuff. Another great way to connect with me more one-on-one is through my new community, the Wild Birth community, and that is opening, I think, tomorrow, actually. You guys releasing this will probably already be open. So that is open. That's on my website, yourwildbirth.com. And that's kind of where I'm going to be hanging out when I'm not on Instagram. So I'm really excited about it.
Awesome.
And you've recently started your own podcast, right?
I have. I know. I kind of forgot. So I also have a podcast, the Your Wild Birth podcast. I'm just on Spotify right now, but I'm working on getting it on all the platforms. And that is basically where I answer questions in depth from my Saturday Q&As that I do on Instagram. So that's another great place to listen to stuff I have to say.
That's so awesome. And then I know I've personally really enjoyed thumbing through your guides, and those are still available on your website as well.
Man, I need to hire you as a spokesperson.
I got you, girl.
Telling people, yeah. So I do have my birth guides. I've cultivated them all into a birth method. And these guides actually originally started with me writing on like college ruled paper all the instructions that my husband needed for my birth. And then I just continued to research and look through all the information that I wanted to have. And then I cultivated that into this wonderful method to help you really plan your dream birth and a blissful postpartum all the way from pregnancy and beyond. And that is also kind of going through, this is the first time I'm saying this, but it's going through a little bit of a revitalization where I'm going to be turning it into a full-blown course where you'll still get the guides with all of the really good information, but then you'll also have some videos from me just to kind of help guide you through it. So maybe keep an eye on, but for now, the guides are still up and available on my website, yourwildbirth.com. And I think that's everything I have going.
That's all I can think of.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Some really beautiful offerings.
Definitely.
Yes. Yeah. There are definitely labors of love. I enjoy those. Yeah.
It's amazing. You can tell, you can feel it. And it's I think that's important if you're going to be in my experience through this pregnancy, if I'm going to be taking in any information, I want it to be from a really energetically high place and a place that comes from love, not fear, not authority. It's this really empowering place of, someone else is just kind of reminding me why I can believe in myself and why I deserve this love and this magnificence. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
You already
you
know.
nailed it.
Like, you already know what you're doing. You already know how to do it. You just need to surround yourself with people that can remind you of that, kind of tune out the conditioning that we're all, that we all have to deal with, and then bring in better conditioning, really.
Yes.
Condition ourselves positively with positive input. And that's really, I think that's the root of the birth method, is to just bring in that positivity. So
Absolutely. Yep, you're definitely doing it. And yep, so nice to connect with you. And I know that the listeners of Alchemical Wellness podcast here will love connecting with you as well. So I'm super grateful we were able to share this positivity and love that you radiate into the world even further.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I could literally talk about all of this all day, and I kind of do. So.
Yeah, I know. I definitely sense some more connection in the future. Yeah,
For
thank you
sure.
so much,
Yeah.
Isabel.
Yes, thank you guys. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, you too. We'll definitely be in touch. We were a little late getting it off, but we did send you some elixirs, so those should be. Well, it sounds like you're not home now anyway, but when you get home, hopefully they'll be waiting for you. And
They should be there today, but
oh, perfect.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
I was just looking through your website, and each product I could see like, oh, this would be for pregnancy. This would be perfect for like birth. This would be perfect for postpartum. So I'm excited to dive into that and start. Because I mean, they look like they taste amazing. They also look like they would be so helpful for very specific points. Yeah. I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, our main principle, with the alchemical wellness, it's encompassing the mind, body, and spirit. So it's not just the, physical herbal aspects of something, which are vital and important, but also including the way that this synergistic blend of plants affects a person's energy and affects their spirit as well. So that's what we try to bring through any of our products, basically, and working with the plants in that way, so that people can feel that on a multi-level experience.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. I mean, I definitely am a person that I like to have my good drinks, and it's something that tunes me in to where I am and tunes me into what I'm doing. And yeah, I mean, I've noticed this about myself recently, where I'm always gravitating towards like, where's the good drink where I can like sit down and be here.
Yes.
And yeah, so I think that being able to pair that with also having really intentionally chosen ingredients for the purpose of really creating like ritual around what you're doing. And I think that is really amazing, because I'm not so well versed on herbs and herbalism, but it is something that I love when other people are, and then they can and what to have, because I feel like my mind is so full of like birth stuff that I'm like, I don't have room for anything else. to do, and then I'll do it and I'll feel great and it's amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm very appreciative for people like you who just hand it to me in a pretty package.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. And I think you already do understand that other piece of it, that's the ritual. That is the part of herbalism that we see in modern herbalism that's kind of lost. We're not meant to understand every single definition of the physical properties of what this plant does. Like, yes, that's helpful and it's fun to delve into, and it can be very medicinal in that way. But our belief is that we're meant to commune with the plants, just like you and I we're communing now with one another. The plants are here for us and with us, and if we feel drawn to a particular blend or a particular herb, it's most likely the spirit of that herb that's calling to us. And so you already get that when you're talking about having your ritualistic cup, whatever that may be. So that's the part we're hoping to bring back and encourage people to reconnect with, because it's not something that you can or have to learn. It's innate within all of us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
No, isn't that true with everything though? It's like, where's the
Yeah.
research? Where's the study? Where's the definition?
Mhm.
I'm even finding myself unlearning that and saying, you know what? Again, I already have the answers. And I can, it's really interesting. Like I love like neuroscience and stuff like that, because it really
Wow.
brings me, it like proves what I already know, which feels
Yep.
good,
Does.
But at the same time, I'm constantly being proven right. And I think it's not to say like, oh, I just know everything, but it's that I'm connected to something that we're all connected to.
Mm,
And the more that you tune into that and the more that you prove it right, you realize how uncomplicated things are and how simple it is to just exist in the world when you just trust that you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
amen,
Yeah.
sister. Very good.
It's just inherent knowing.
It
and
is.
tapping into your intuition.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to do it again. I'm working through like figuring out, how to do like guests and everything. I'm literally recording like my podcast on my phone, and I don't really know totally how to make everything work. But at some point I want to start doing guests, and you guys will definitely
Oh, thank you.
even letting me share your birth story. If it sounds fun.
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'd love that.
Yeah, that would be cool. But either way, you'll just have to let me know how it goes. I know you're I'm sure you're starting to feel like you're getting into that zone of just like birth time.
Yes.
I knew I
am. Yeah. Even today in particular, I felt very dreamy. So it's nice. I'm just embracing it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And enjoy it. Like, I know everyone's going to say that, and this is completely unsolicited advice. So, but that's something I want to either bring back or create or recreate, is embracing the last few weeks of pregnancy. Which, again, I fought that. I was like, no, baby has to come here now. I don't want to be pregnant anymore. Even through a wild pregnancy, saying, oh, your due date doesn't matter, I was still like, it's my due date, get out now.
Yeah.
Unlearning. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to be pregnant again and to embrace the last few weeks, because they are so much more special than I think we give them credit for. So
Yeah.
It does feel very, very special right now. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you. That's great. Great advice.
I just gotta be careful giving it, but I really believe that one. So
It's powerful. Yeah. There's no need to be in a rush. Baby will come, and I'm never going to experience this exact day or moment again. None of us are, for that matter. So we might as well soak it up and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
And breathe on quantum time.
Yes. Quantum time for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'll let you go. Enjoy enjoy your days, your last days of pregnancy.
Thank you.
And, yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing this episode. I think a lot of people, I think my audience will love it as well. So
Yeah,
And
thank you.
if you need any technical help later on setting stuff up or anything like that, just let us know. Be
yeah,
happy to help.
yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. I know I'm like so not good at tech. I should be like, I'm a millennial. Like I shouldn't be bad at this. I'm embracing motherhood. All of a sudden, I didn't know how anything works anymore.
Good for you though, not
Yeah.
letting that stop you. I think so many of us are like, oh, I have to have it all figured out before I start my podcast. And it's like you don't. So
Yeah.
you're doing it, and that's great. So
I'm good
Yeah.
at doing stuff, thinking through stuff. Not so much, but doing stuff. I can do that. So
love it.
yeah.
Do you happen to know about human design?
I do. Yeah.
Cool.
I got
So what's your type?
yeah, I'm a manifesting generator, which
Okay. Yep.
probably pretty obvious. Yeah. I'm all over the place with
I
everything. that-
love it.
yeah.
One of my
And
favorite energy.
yeah, it's fun, and once I learned about human design, that's when I really started embracing this about myself, and I didn't feel so much shame about just like dropping stuff and then starting something else and whatever, because
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, so what about you guys?
Yeah, I'm a projector.
I'm a manifester.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, my husband's a
Yeah.
manifestor, and then my oldest is actually a projector. So
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
we just read in the book that we have called Understanding Human Design by Karen Curry. She has like a small section in there that's like parenting a projector, and she has it for each type. But yeah, it was really fascinating because our 5-year-old is also a projector.
cool.
And so it's just, yeah, that's wow. I better stop now because that's a whole nother
Yeah.
topic, but it is amazing.
Well, I'll have to read that. And then what's it called?
Yeah.
It's called Understanding.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, or I
Yeah.
can even send you a picture of the section I'm talking about if you want to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to just get the book because I think my middle is a manifesting generator as well.
Cool.
And I haven't looked up my youngest. But I'll have to
Mhm.
go and see what he's got going on. He might be a generator.
Yeah, I think it's really cool to have the opportunity to parent the type that you are, because what I'm realizing is it's bringing up this whole reparenting myself of like, oh, I can work with her strategy in the way I wish my parents would have worked with mine, rather than like resisting it or having that shame. So
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wonderful. It's just all the healing that can happen. It's
yeah.
I mean,
But anyways, yeah, I feel like this could be another 5 hours, and I want to
know.
respect your time. Thank you so much.
all right. Well, I'll talk to you guys again. Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah, I look forward to connecting again. Thanks, Isabel.
Yes. Thank you guys. Enjoy your day.
You,
Yeah, you
too.
too.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Oh, wow. So awesome. Holy shit. So good.